school has a lot of amazing teachers, but I think there's only a few that have personally impacted me. So first I have Mr. Harrell. He is someone who is very knowledgeable in what he teaches, and there's always something to gain from what he teaches. And he can be perceived as a cold person, but I've seen that he is very considerate, generous, kind, and caring for his students, and I admire that about him. And for Mr. Beaumont, he's someone I deeply respect. I've always found stories in English very interesting, but Mr. Beaumont taught me the value of looking into details, and not just looking at the overall big picture, but that details and the message can make you really understand the story so much better. My other teachers that have impacted me would be Miss Cowan. I had her throughout middle school, and she's the one that has taught me to truly enjoy literature. Like, her love for literature has spread to me, and she's just such an excellent teacher. She's the perfect balance between strictness and being able to have fun, and which I think is very hard to do, but her talent in being able to teach others is something that I admire about her. And then next I have Miss Dallas. I've known Miss Dallas since 6th grade, so I've known her for a while. And she's been there for me when I was going through those things. And she's just a very dependable person with just a very caring and kind heart. And just seeing her work hard has caused me to want to work hard too as well.
A teacher that has really impacted me is my older brother, because it's my older brother. He's taught me a lot. He's annoyed me a lot, but also taught me a lot. He's recently become a teacher at this school this last year, and I've had him for a few classes, but him teaching here hasn't really impacted me. He also has just been one of my teachers throughout being homeschooled. He's the person who really got me interested in history, not even through teaching me about it. It would just be sitting in the car, and he would just tell me some random history facts. I'd be like, dude, how do you even know these things? And he just would, and that really got me invested in these random facts about history.
On to teachers. So Miss Cowan has taught me since 7th grade up to 10th grade English and writing Latin. Without Miss Cowan, I would not have passed Mr. Beaumont's classes. I think that's a very important thing. She definitely teaches you the structure of how to write a Beaumont essay. It's you make your claim, you give textual evidence, you explain your textual evidence, and you repeat that over and over again as many times as you have to drive the point home. But more important than the actual knowledge that she imparted to all of us, I think for me, was that she was one of the first teachers that I really became friends with. And I think that it's something that I learned, especially recently. Whenever you move from elementary school to junior high to high school, once you get into high school, teachers are, of course, they're an authority figure and they're above you and they can tell you what to do and you have to listen to them. But you realize that they're people too, in a way. I used to cause a lot of trouble for my teachers. I think that's definitely a fair thing to say. And I didn't really care necessarily when I was disrespectful and stuff like that, because they're your teachers, they have to do it, they have to deal with you, that's what they have to do. But you start to realize that they're people and that you can get along with them even though they're older than you, and that you can be friends with them. So I think that Miss Cowan was one of the first teachers that I was really friends with. And then there's Mr. Harrell. So this was a picture taken in physics this year. We had a lot of fun in physics this year. We would taste weird foods just in the beginning of class, just for fun. Mr. Harrell has a song of the day that he has every morning that he wakes up to, and I made a playlist with all of his songs on it, and so there's just stuff like that that we get to enjoy with him, and that once again it's just that he's a friend. He's not just a teacher who's giving you knowledge and stuff to help you for life, which he is, of course, and he does it very well. He applies everything to real life, and it's amazing. but he's a friend. And my favorite thing about Mr. Harrell, I think, is that whenever he was teaching biology, he had to talk about, I believe it was biology, he had to talk about evolution versus creationism. And in public schools, you don't get to learn about creationism. And in a lot of private schools, I feel like we probably don't learn much about evolution either. But Mr. Harrell makes it, he doesn't ever say which one specifically is right. He will give you the facts of both and the things of both that people say are wrong, and he'll just present it to you to let you make that decision yourself. And I really think that's important, and that's something that should be like universal. That's how every biology class should be taught, because I just think that's something it's important to let students make that choice themselves. So then there's Miss Kim. I took art classes with her for like a long time, at like a lot of art classes, and I was the lazy student. I didn't want to draw. We had constant angle, and I would do this chain constant angle that would take up a whole page, and I would count that as my work done for the day. And sometimes she would let it count, but other times she'd make me fill it in. But every year she went to formal, and we took a picture with her, me and Bradley. But last year Gus was sick, so she couldn't make it. So we called her, and we took a screenshot on FaceTime with her so that we could have that picture. So Miss Kim is kind of like my school mom in a way, and I think she is for a lot of us. Then there's Mr. Beaumont. This is us with cowboy hats and mustaches. He's definitely a close friend, I would say, for me. And he's hard. He's a hard teacher, and he has different expectations that he places on people based on their ability, and I think that's also important. He doesn't just let people coast by as much. He will very clearly make it known to you that even if you got a good grade, like I'll have gotten an A, and he'll say that he's like, he won't say disappointed, but he won't be proud of you per se, because he knows you could do better and you didn't put in that effort, and so that's something that really helps and drives you. And then I'd also like to mention Miss Lewis. I think recently I noticed that she's always cheerful, even whenever we're annoying and disrespectful towards her. And it's Spanish, none of us like Spanish, and none of us can speak it well. But she's always cheery, and she always makes us happy. And I think it's something that's a good attitude to have. She has a good attitude all the time, pretty much no matter what. And then I'd also like to mention Miss Larson. I didn't know we could put teachers that weren't from high school on here, so I didn't. Since Hannah did, I'm going to talk about Miss Larson. She helped me love math, and I don't love it as much anymore. I had some rough math classes in high school, but whenever I had her, I wanted to go STEM all the way. And even more than that, though, she showed me, like, she was very vulnerable with her faith and very open with her life. And whenever you're a 6th grader or an 8th grader, that's something that the teachers aren't usually willing to do. And so that was really important to me.
We're going to start off with most impactful teachers. You probably see Mr. Harrell like on everybody's, but he is probably the best teacher that we have, in my opinion. We love Mr. Harrell. Mr. Whitaker is another impactful teacher in my life. And Mr. Otterbrook, who I think is in the room. What's up, Mr. Otterbrook? He was my mentor, and even though I forgot our meetings a lot, I love you. And I know my hugs make you uncomfortable, that's why I do it. And then Miss Kim. Everybody says Miss Kim, I'm sure, even though she's not a teacher. We love her. And I didn't have any pictures, sorry guys.
Next are my teachers that I feel have made the most impact in my life. I wish I could put more on here because there are so many of you that have helped me just learning and growing up to be a human being. But I'd like to start off with Mrs. Larson. I know she's not one of my high school teachers, but she was my 6th grade teacher and my 8th grade math teacher. And she really, not only through teaching education, but through her devotionals and just the life advice she would give us in class, she really just shaped who we are on a deeper level, even if she didn't realize it. Everything she would teach would have a purpose to it. Everything she would show us, she could show us a deeper meaning and would show us how to intertwine that into our lives. And she's actually the reason that I would like to go in. She's one of the reasons that I would like to go into the degree I'll be pursuing, which I will talk about later. And then there's Mrs. Cowan. She was the first literature teacher that I had that really made me enjoy literature. Because, I mean, I always liked reading and everything, but the concepts that she would teach us in class were just like, oh, I didn't see how you could connect something like that, or I didn't see how you could think about that from an angle, and I just really enjoyed that. Also, she is the person that I really credit to teaching me how to write papers, because without her, I would not be able to write a simple essay. She is the reason we know the structure for writing in general, and the reason most of the people we can pass Beaumont tests and essays. And so I really appreciate her for that. And then there's Mr. Beaumont. I really just appreciate having Mr. Beaumont there as a teacher, just showing us to push ourselves, teaching us to just expand on what we learn, and teaching us that school is not all about passing tests. It's about what you gain from what you're learning and how you can push that more in your life and just expanding your mind more. So I really appreciate all three of these teachers so much.
Teachers that impacted my life. My favorite teacher is Miss Law. I love her. Favorite teacher. She's my bestie. Anyways, I really struggled in math, like throughout high school and middle school. Like failed every math class I've taken, straight up. This year, have not failed one test or quiz this year. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. So, she's awesome. She really cares about each of her students. I'm her favorite, so there you go. She's very encouraging. Like I'll walk into class knowing we have a test, and I'll just like doubt myself, saying I'm gonna fail, and she just kind of like boosts me up every second. I really love that, and she's very like one-on-one, and I like really struggle with teachers like not like giving me that one-on-one teaching, because I went to Rock Hall my freshman and sophomore year, and they just threw papers at me, and I just struggled with that. But she's very like, I'll come in and she'll just help me. So I really love that about her. Another teacher that's really like helped me this year is Miss Cripps. She's actually my mentor, and I love her very much. She hears all the drama that goes on in my life. She's probably one of my favorite teachers here, so I really love her, and I really appreciate her listening to all my problems and being there for me.
Over the years, I've had many good teachers, but these two make a lasting impression in my high school years. Mr. Harrell, whom I've had for karate, earth science, biology, forensics, chemistry, economics, and physics, has made learning fun. He does this by offering hands-on experiments, a sense of humor, and having a relaxed personality. His realistic teaching method and infusement of real-world application and advice also adds to his greatness. His ability to create relationships with the students ultimately makes his classes more enjoyable to be in. I can say for a fact that I have never dreaded going to any of his classes. I've never been excited about English. However, Mr. Beaumont has opened my eyes and mind to appreciate it a little more. Much like Mr. Harrell, though not as freely, he has shared personal stories and built a relationship with us. As a younger student, watching my sisters go through his classes, I can remember being intimidated and frightful of his class. Now that I've had 2 years with him, I am extremely grateful to have been taught by him. And one thing I would stress to teachers is that if they would engage and personalize their teaching, it would be more enjoyable and interesting to the students.
My impacts. Miss Jo, sadly she couldn't make it today, but she impacted my life by being my favorite teacher and having real life talks with me. She also makes me laugh, and I love her energy she brings to the class. Now, before I go on, I wish I had more time to add more stuff to this, but there's going to be some people that aren't on my slideshow that I want to recognize as well. Miss Jo, she just made me laugh, and she was just amazing. Mr. Harrell. Mr. Harrell, he impacted my life by changing my view of forensics and how cool forensic facts really are. We talked about John Bonet, that case about the little girl while back, and he also intrigued the class and made it very particular and very special. He made everyone laugh in that class. Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis had an impact on my life as well. Spanish has been very, very interesting with her. She helps me through my tough times in Spanish. She also loved me. I really felt like I had a personal connection with her because not only that I would tell her things in Spanish and me learning everything, but also of how she taught the class. And one more thing about Miss Lewis, she was a great teacher, and no matter how many tests I failed in Spanish, I'm still going to always appreciate everything that I have. Other impacts. I want to also recognize Miss Toby. She has been there for me ever since I first came to poetry. She's loved me like her own child. I just want to say thank you to her because she means everything to me as well. Miss Sizemore. Miss Sizemore is a great person. You can never get enough of her laughter. You can never get enough of her in general, her energy. She's just that person that you can go to whenever you need something. Other than events and school events and stuff like that, you can always talk to her about your personal problems whenever you need help with. And Miss Whitaker. I just want to thank Miss Whitaker for everything that she's done for me. I'm incredibly grateful for her being in my life. I had a rough time last year when I was in a behavioral facility, and I talked to her about it, and she told me that I will get through this, and it's not forever. And she's just been there all the way for me, and I just want to say thank you for that, Ms. Whitaker. Miss Kim, I love her. She's awesome. She is that type of woman that you can go to whenever that you need help with, no matter if it's school, outside of school, or whatever it may be. I just feel like me and Miss Kim have that energy where we just match. And I remember this week, it was a stressful week, and we crossed paths, and I was like in karate moves and everything. And she was like, that's how I want to do it to this day, because today was not it. So she makes me laugh all the time, and yeah.
Impacts, Dr. Ray. Where do I start? I want to start by saying thank you so much for creating PCCX. It has been such a blessing to have been able to get my education at a smaller Christian school. I honestly believe that if I stayed at Rose Point, I would not be the woman that I am today. I love that I have the availability to come here and worship freely. You've taught me so much over the last 8 years of my life, and not just in psychology and government, which have been two of my favorite classes, but you have taught me many life lessons. You have opened your home to me, including many other students, whenever in need. And you are a huge blessing. You were a huge blessing when my parents split. You were there with wide open arms and listening ears. And I'm very thankful for that. Miss Kim. Oh, you got me through my days. You heard all the drama. You knew everything that was going on. You were always there to give me a hug when in need. You knew my insecurities, and you also had the best art classes. We would go in there and I would get so frustrated because Bradley and Dalton never wanted to do anything. And then in your wood art class, you made us make a sign that said beautiful. And I remember them boys painting it for me, because Andy practically forced me to. My coach, she was nice, but you know, after the season I was kind of like, I don't want to play anymore. I fell out of love with it. And then Coach Valle came along and showed me what it truly means to love a sport. He was the best encourager. He always helped me along, and with my temper, he was able to deal with that. Don't really know how, and he always told me like what was wrong. Like every time I'd get pulled out, I'd get mad, I'd get frustrated, and he'd be like, well, this is what you did wrong, this is what you need to do. And so I'm just very thankful for that, and still to this day, I love it, and I'm gonna miss it dearly, and all of my teammates. Miss Cripps, you are a light in my life. I love you dearly. You're always there when in need, and I remember the day we were told you were going to be our devotions teacher this first semester. I got so happy I almost cried. We would go deep into the Bible, but I knew that you were always there whenever I wanted to dig deeper. You helped me have a better understanding of the Bible and grow in my faith, and I'm very appreciative for that. Miss Whitaker, this is the most patient woman I've ever met in my entire life. She's in the library, and she does have some free periods where she just gets to do her own work, but us students go in there and invade her space. I have a spot like on the end of her desk in her little black rolly chair where anytime I really need to get my work done, she knows that that's where I like to work. I like to come in there and sit. It's very peaceful, and I get a lot done. And just the other day, she was working on the arts for this next year's theme. And I walked in with my bag. She could tell I was stressed, and she goes, do you need me to clear your spot? And I was like, no, it's okay. I was going to move somewhere else. And she jumped right out of her desk and moved all of the things so I could sit and work. You're also an amazing devotions teacher. I love you dearly. My not oldest nephew, but one of the oldest nephews, doesn't have very Christian parents, to say the least. And he came to me asking for a Bible and wanted help to go deeper into the Bible. So I remember going to Miss Whitaker and asking her for verses. And by the end of that day, she gave me a whole packet filled with verses and a little lesson that I could give to him.
So some of my teacher impacts. First off is Miss Whitaker. Miss Whitaker has been a constant in my life, especially, or like she's been a constant in my senior year. I've gone through some things that a lot of people don't know about, some people do, but she's been there holding my hand every step of the way. I wouldn't have been able to do what I do even in chapel without her, so I'm very thankful for her. She's been my devotions teacher, and she's not my official mentor, but she's been like it, and so I'm so thankful for her. And Miss Nelson is my technical mentor, and she has been with me every step of the way. She's been like a friend to me. We've been able to have a conversation, not just her speaking to me, but us going back and forth and just kind of seeing what we think about things. And she is the literal reason that I'm graduating. Thank you for putting up with my stubbornness and not wanting to do my schoolwork. But we're getting there, so thank you. And then Miss Kim. Miss Kim has been, and the same for Miss Job, it's kind of like having extra school moms. Miss Kim has always kept me going whenever I didn't want to be in classes that weren't enjoyable. She would just kind of encourage me to keep going, and so I'm very thankful for her. And Miss Job, in my junior year, junior year is a very difficult year for me mentally, and she was just there. We always had good conversations, and she was just there encouraging me every step of the way. She kept me sane, and she was also the best DJ we've ever had at homecoming, so thank you for that. And Dr. H, she created the place where I met my very best friends in the world, and it is because of her psych class that I knew exactly what I wanted to do, so thank you for that.
So teachers, I'm going to start with Ms. Whitaker. Ms. Whitaker has been an absolute angel in disguise. Not because she was there when I needed her, but because she was a friend to me the most when I had no one. When I had no one to cry to, she was there. When I didn't know how to find the answer I was looking for, she was there. And even through the darkest moments of my life where I thought I could never climb out of this dark hole, I was thinking, she was still there. It was much more than just a simple school relationship or friendship. She became my closest best friend. I truly couldn't have done it without you. I love you, Miss Wick, and thank you. Next is Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie was almost like a second mom away from her. She was always there looking after me when I wasn't looking after myself. But most importantly, she gave me some of the most hardest yet truthful advice I needed to hear. As much as I'd like to say that I do work my hardest and I don't cut corners and I don't slack off, I know that's not true. Miss Jackie gave me those extra pushes I needed when I didn't have the motivation to get through. I'm grateful to have got to spend the majority of my school year in your nurse's office. I love you, Miss Jackie. Miss Dallas. Although I didn't know Miss Dallas for very long, I can say that she has been one of the most spiritually impactful people I've ever met. No one ever said life was going to be easy, and I wish somebody would have told me that once. Life was beating down at me so bad that it felt like I had a mouthful of dirt. And least when I expected it, God put a right in my life when I needed it. That day, I had felt God's presence more than I had ever felt my whole 18 years ago. No words or tears could explain how grateful I am for Miss Dallas and all of the advice and encouragement she's given me. And I hope my words encourage you, Miss Dallas, to continue blessing others. Thank you.
I have to say, both the Whitakers and Miss Nelson not only impacted me, but in my walk with Christ as well. During my sophomore year, I heard a lot about people having fun in mission trips, which convinced me on joining the missions team. Little did I know I was going to have a ton of fun in my last few years. I had a lot of fun doing missions fundraisers at Joe Willie's, and later watching and having fun with the kids at Hidden Acres. Not gonna lie, after the first couple of days, I wanted to leave Hidden Acres, but at the end of the week, I'm glad I didn't leave. I can't wait to figure out what God has planned for me in my future walk. Can't wait to figure out what God has planned for me in my walk with Christ. Of course, I will never forget my first coaches that taught a non-athletic person how to play basketball and completely changing his life. I'm glad that I met both Coach Austin and Blake when I first started my basketball career, and I'm grateful that they give me a chance to play on the JV team and by some chance on varsity as well. Even though it was for one game, thank you, Dr. Blake, for giving me a chance to play on varsity during our homecoming game 2 seasons ago, and for kick-starting my journey for my last few years of high school. Also, even though I never played basketball competitively before, thank you, Coach Austin, and giving me a chance to be a part of the GMRC team, and for giving me many chances to compete with my teammates. Thank you both for teaching me how to play basketball and for laying my foundation in the sport that I now love. And now my time in junior varsity is now in the past, and let's fast forward to my time on varsity. I want to thank Coach Valle for believing in me and for letting me play on varsity team with my friends, and thank you for all the assistant coaches for training me to compete in a different level than I was used to. Not only he helps me grow as a person, but also helped me grow as an athlete, both on and off the court. I wouldn't have made it this far without everyone, and thank you for making my last season a memorable one. To wrap this up, during my short high school career while playing the sport, it taught me many things which I'll never forget, and I will take the knowledge with me when I go to college and for the rest of my life. And all these people, I had to say, Miss McNeil, Miss Cripps, and Miss Townsend impacted my life, impacted me the most. In the last 2 years, they not only impacted me in a personal level, but a spiritual level as well. All three of them saw me at my lowest points, which I never thought I'd get to in my life, but saw my Josh Groban raise me up. They both raised me up and helped me get back on my own 2 feet. After I slowly recuperated myself, I sometimes think of them as part of my second family here at Poetry. I'm glad that God put them in my life, and I'm going to miss them all when I graduate.
Some teachers who have really impacted me were Miss Cripps. She was like my school mom. She's always there for me, and I just love going to her office and just hanging out with her and just talking to her about the randomest things and just doing whatever. She's just awesome. And I love that she's a part of my life. Miss Kim is awesome. She is so easy to talk to, and we have the same humor, and it's just weird because I can just talk to her about some things that I wouldn't talk to anyone about, and she's just so loving and caring, and she just has a big heart, and I love her so much for that. Coach Katie, she was my cheer coach last year, and she's awesome. She's like the big sister I've never had that I've always wanted. She's the first person who really made me feel important at Poetry. Miss Whitaker, I love Miss Whitaker so much. She's just an overall great person. She's easy to talk to also, and I think that's why we get along so well, is because I can just walk up to her and just say something random, and she will just give me the same energy back, and I love her so much for that. And she is a true leader of this school. She has such a big heart, and she has a true leadership for God and His Word, and it really opened my eyes to so much more. Miss Sizemore, I love Miss Sizemore. One of my first classes at Poetry was PowerPoint, and Miss Sizemore, at first she scared me, but then I've grown to love her so much, and she's just a true leader, and I can also talk to her about anything and everything. I love her so much.
Teachers. So, Mr. Beaumont, definitely one of my favorite teachers. He has taught me core classes such as English 1301, 1302, British literature, and English, American literature. He's also taught me honors electives, and unfortunately I did not take one this semester, which he did not appreciate. He also taught some of my siblings, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, because then he has expectations for me that made life difficult sometimes, especially in his class, because I feel like I was being compared to others constantly, and me being a foreman walking in there, he's like, I know how this guy's gonna react. So anytime I would maybe correct him when he needed it, of course, and fix tables and chairs because, they weren't perfect, because that's just how I am. He would always say that's because I'm a foreman. He also taught me critical thinking and how to analyze books and poems and other stuff, which is a good skill to have. In his classes, he really wanted us to engage with his thinking, and his new room, which is appropriately named after him, is in a conference style setting, which is really good for him and us because we get to talk to each other and actually hear the quiet people read the stories, because that's always difficult. Probably some of the more challenging classes around here would be his, and I did manage to coast along through most of it, but the research papers were always difficult because I just hate writing. I've always loved reading though, but surprisingly, English was never really my strong suit. I don't know why. Kind of baffles me, to be honest. So yeah, Mr. Beaumont, he always makes us smile and also kind of cry on the inside whenever he tells us our assignments and tests that are coming up. Mr. Harold though, he's a character. He really taught me a lot, and I feel like I've known him the entire time I've been here, but especially since second grade when I believe I started doing karate. And karate has taught me a lot about maturing and building character, and though I haven't really kept up with it all that well, it also taught me to subdue my perfectionist spirit a little bit, especially when going out here to test, and I would be kind of frustrated with myself whenever I would mess up. And the key was, you know, you're gonna mess up, but don't let other people know, right? He also taught me earth science, biology, forensics, chemistry, economics, and physics, all of which were great classes, and I enjoyed having him as a teacher. He made them interesting, and actually so did my classmates, because we all interacted in those. He's just a clever comedic man who really cares about the students here, and he also makes being a nerd kind of cool, so I appreciate that.
Teachers at PCCS. So I'd like to start with Miss Phillips, who cannot be here today because she is with Preston. Miss Phillips was my Stuco advisor as well as my yearbook advisor. I met her when I started yearbook my sophomore year, and that was when COVID hit. And whenever we all left the campus, the whole yearbook team kind of shut down. And so me and Miss Phillips continued to work hard on the yearbook and to finish it out. And she has just been such a loving soul to me, such a big encourager. She has loved on me. We've gone to lunch after she left, and she's just been a huge part of why I do so many things here. Miss Sizemore. Miss Sizemore has been my school mom, even though my mom does work here. She is the one person I know that, even though I am not her kid, she will drop anything to be there for me and to support me and to give me snacks whenever I need them. Miss Kim. Miss Kim is also one of my school moms, and she is just amazing. She has always been there to love on me, even before she worked in the front office. She's been there to support me and just to cheer me on no matter what. Miss Houston. Miss Houston actually lives in Florida, but she is the reason I am following my career path in criminal justice. I took her forensics class my sophomore year, and I absolutely loved it, and I fell in love with criminal justice and forensics, and I decided to follow her encouragement to take this into my career path. Coach Valle was not only my basketball coach, but a mentor to me. He told my mom, she's not a basketball player, but she is an athlete, so I will make her into a basketball player. The first day I met Coach Valle, I was playing basketball, and I had never played before, and I did not make a layup, so I cried, like always. And he just hugged me, and he had never met me before, he didn't know me, but he just hugged me, and he let me know that it was all going to be okay, and that I could make it through the season. And then Merv and Maddie Walls, they are both in North Carolina, but Merv and Maddie Walls were mentors to me, but also close friends. I met them my junior year through volleyball, and they were just such amazing coaches, and they really encouraged me.
Miss Holly, she was one of my most encouraging teachers during my 7th and 8th grade years. She was always she just would help me out with anything I needed to ask her, she would help me with. If I ever needed to talk, she was always right there for me. Miss Rosenbaum. I only had Miss Rosenbaum for one semester, but during that semester I took college algebra. She never made me feel like my dyslexia was a disability, and she always encouraged me to do my best even if I couldn't figure the problem out. She never made the class feel like a burden to me, although it was very difficult. She is the only reason I made it through it because I just could not live without her. She helped me with everything. And then Miss Joe. I've had Miss Joe since freshman year. She taught me geometry, algebra 2, pre-cal, and now financial math. She also became my mentor this year. She has helped me through a lot of difficulties this year whenever I can just go up to her and talk to her about anything. And it really has helped being able to rant to her with anything that's going on in my life.
The 4 teachers here that have made the biggest impact on me were Mrs. Cowan, Coach Cheney, Mrs. Cripps, and Mrs. Whitaker. Mrs. Cowan, I first got to know in junior high when she was my English teacher. And I went through a very hard time in junior high with friendships and all of that. I was a lot different than most girls my age. But Mrs. Cowan kind of took me under her wing, and she became my school best friend. She would always let me sit next to her table whenever all the girls ran off without me. And she has become one of my best friends since then. She is now my mentor throughout my senior year, and I'm so very thankful for everything she's done for me. Coach Cheney was new this semester. I first got to know her in her exercise science class that she taught me, and she was my softball coach. A lot of teachers focus a lot on grades, and they don't care so much about the students' mental health or why maybe their grades are falling or why they're not at school that much. But Coach Cheney made sure that she knew why I was struggling. She was there for me whenever no one else was. And she made sure that she took more into what was going on with me mentally than what was going on with my grades. She also had a prayer request box in her room that any student at any time could put anything into, anonymously or non-anonymously, which I feel like more teachers should have. Mrs. Cripps was my Bible class teacher last semester. She made a big impact on, I'm sure, all of us in the class. She related so well to teen girls and always tried to look at life from our viewpoint. And she always somehow tended to be there whenever I needed someone there. Whether it was a compliment or just stopping me and asking how my day was, it was always at the perfect time. And lastly, Mrs. Whitaker, I got to know through my Bible class second semester and teaching my study hall classes. Throughout the Bible class, she somehow always taught exactly what I needed that week. It's a very tough semester to go through, being your last year out where you have grown up your entire life. And there's a lot of emotions that come with that, and sometimes every week was different. But she was always there, always teaching exactly what I needed for that week. She's changed my life in ways that she probably doesn't even know. By sharing so much of her personal life with me that I'm sure was hard. But she shared it without even knowing what was going on in my life and why I needed that.
Is a few people that have impacted me. I'll start with Ms. Nelson. Me and Ms. Nelson share a love for missionary. That is one thing that I think we first bonded over. I got really close to her on my second mission trip going in 8th grade to Kentucky. And not only traveling to Kentucky, but late night, last minute exodus trips, and also with her being my mentor. I chose her to be my mentor because I've always seen her as such an important person here, and everything she says or does, I look up to. And I can't say I've ever looked at you any different than how I first met you. You're absolutely a role model in my life, and everything you say, I don't know, it just means a lot to me, and I want you to know that. She inspires me to be so strong and godly. You've been through so many things, and you don't let it lead you. You just stop that negative space and you keep going. And I Thank you for teaching me that. Next is Ms. Whitaker. Much like all the other teachers, she's been there by my side through some of the hardest times. Every time I speak to Ms. Whitaker, she always knows what to say. When I come to her and ask for advice, it's hard for me to talk about it. She encourages me daily through my faith. You have such a strong faith, and I admire it. And you've helped me grow in my faith. I don't come to everyone asking to pray for me. You are one of the only people I would ever trust enough to pray for me or pray for me. And sometimes I didn't even need to tell you, and that was one of my favorite things about you. Knowing that someone is truly on your side, like you were for me, is an amazing feeling. I could go on for hours, but not enough thank yous could go to you, Ms. Whitaker. And lastly is Ms. Dyer. I don't think she could be here today, but she was the first teacher that I actually had class with in 6th grade. I will tell you the little story. It was my first day, and I go to her class, and I remember, I think Mitchell was the only student in there that was at my class at the time, and of course he was so friendly, but I was terrified, and I sat down, and I just felt this utter, like, I'm not gonna be good enough for private school, but I have dyslexia. So I sat down, and they were going over some things in class, and I had no clue what they were going over. But she asked me, and I answered, and for once, she made me feel not like I was worth more than the grades that I made. I always felt like she was a second mother or a grandmother to me, and she was the first teacher I really bonded with to go up to them and always make jokes and stuff. I was never really like that with everyone until it started through her. And she also sparked a love of mine for writing. I really enjoy creative writing. I actually write poems quite often, and she was the one who showed me that. And it was actually meaningful poems, not just written or whatever. And she said it sparked me to keep doing that. So